All right, thank you everyone for coming to the Electronic Incomplete Grade Request Form webinar. This presentation is recorded and will be available at ctstate.edu/webinars within a day or two, as well as the presentation slides. I'm going to turn it over to Jean Main, and she's going to walk us through the presentation.
Great. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Today, we're talking about the electronic incomplete request form. And I just want to make sure, can everybody, Alexa, can you see my screen?
I can.
Terrific. So I'm hoping that's the same for everybody else. We're talking about the electronic incomplete request form, and we're going to discuss the details of the form. The good news for everybody, the policy that's up on my screen now has not changed. So for right now, we're just dealing with a change of, we're working with a change of procedure rather than a change in our policy. So all the policy that Anita and her team have implemented throughout their time at CT State and prior in the legacy colleges is the same as it always has been. So one of the changes for this form and for the process, the procedure part of it, is that the student will be initiating the request. So the student form, so this is a picture of the student's card and their online forms. At the top, there's some financial aid, and then there are records forms. And you can see right here, the incomplete grade request form is there as well. So when the student is going to click on this link, and they are going to get to the form. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Ooh, a little bit bigger. We'll see. Hold on. Might be too big, but I would like you to be able to see there. That looks okay. If there's any feedback in the chat, Alexa, about the size and the ability to read and see, let me know. I'm happy to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So when the student clicks on the link to the form, this is what they're presented with. They are required to put in their student ID. And when they do that, there is an integration with Banner that is going to pull up the student's first name, email address, and last name, which is terrific. I frequently use myself as a test subject. So there I am requesting an incomplete grade. And then the student will get a drop down where they have to select their home campus. When they select their home campus, they're going to receive another section of the form. And that section is called the course detail. And this is what it looks like. So again, this is the portion the student already filled out initially. They selected their campus, and now they have to give us some information about the form that they would like, or about the course they'd like to have an incomplete for. So this course's CRM number is 43036. The subject is biology, and the course number is 1005. They're requesting an incomplete. They were taking it in the spring semester of 2024, and the course title's Introduction to Biology. And what they're sharing with us, we're asking them to put in some justification, some reasoning. And the student says, I had a car accident and some injuries that impacted my doing assignments at the end of the term. And the student will then put in the faculty's name and next the faculty's email address. Certify that what they're reporting is true and correct, and then click submit. So for there, the instructor that the student named in the form is going to receive an email with the subject line here.
Excuse me, Jean, they're asking if
Yes.
you could make it slightly larger.
Oh, yes, of course, you guys. Thanks. I'm sorry. I get it. How's that? A little better?
It's bigger on my end for sure.
Okay. All right. We'll try there. But if it's still a problem, certainly say so. The faculty member will receive an email in the subject line of the email. So what they'll see is review required, incomplete grade form from the student's name, Jean Main. And then there is obviously detail, and similar to the course substitution process, there are no phishing type of signals from our IT department. So those have been removed because this is an internal communication. And the faculty member will need to click on the link that says access the incomplete grade form. Okay, and here are the written instructions, but basically what I will be going over with you is the faculty is going to see the information that the student entered. So maybe this will try to get a little bit bigger because I know that print is small. Okay, there we go. The student ID, email address, first name, last name, campus, the course information they're requesting here, and then the certification. Then we come down to the faculty approval section. And the faculty is required to put in a default grade. Now, that's nothing new, as you all know. You've been doing that for years. And the last date that the student participated. From there, the faculty needs to put in the requirements that the student must meet in order to have their grade changed from the incomplete. We recommend, and just through doing many tests with this form, this is a free form field. So what that basically means is whatever you type in there, we're going to be placing into a communication to the student. So you want to be really mindful about how you notate their requirements. So I like to do 1 period, and then, final exam or paper due or lab report 3. Very detailed, but not, I guess not excessively so, I would say for you. If you perhaps reference the syllabus, that gives the students something to look back on for more detailed information about the form. And then the student also missed the final exam. And just so you're aware, I really important. We're sending a communication to students about this, and we're really urging students along the way through every avenue to make sure that they consult their faculty member before they fill out the form. So there should be no surprises to them when they see this. So again, detailing the assignments that are required, that our faculty member needs to sign and approve or deny. Provide any notes that might be helpful to the dean as it gets passed on to the dean or dean of faculty or dean of students for approval. And then the faculty member identifies the name of the dean, and Dean Sparrow is fine, Anita Sparrow, and then their full email address. Couple things, being mindful, we're in a place where we're changing domain names. So, and I know that I think our current email addresses will be maintained for 2 years. So regardless of the old one, the new one, but I just anticipate there's might be an issue with former names or, things like that. So just be mindful about how you're spelling. In test, I've spelled things wrong, and there's a cue that I work on where there are spelling mistakes in the email addresses. So once the faculty member completes the information about the dean, they also click submit. And then after clicking submit, it's very important to close the browser. If the browser stays open, the form is locked. So we want to make sure we close our browser so that the next approver or person to view the form is able to do so. I get some calls or some notes through Teams saying, I can't open the form. I say, give it till the end of the day. Try again a little bit later, because by then the person who had it open before has usually closed the browser. So that's an important tidbit. And then the dean of faculty and dean of students will receive an email. And again, their review is required in the subject for the incomplete grade form and the student's name. Click on the link to view the form. And so the dean is going to see, because that's really faded. Okay, so the dean is going to see everything that the student filled out. So all the course information, student information. And then they're also going to see what the faculty has written in. And again, I'm just going to say this information will appear in the correspondence to the student. So this letter grade for faculty, we want to make sure, I would recommend capitals, right? And these items too. So we just want to keep reminding folks that when sometimes these free form, we like that we can kind of pull it out and notify the student on your behalf, or repeat what you've already said, most likely. Okay, then they also see that the faculty member has approved, and they will see any notes that the faculty member might have made for the dean to review. And then the dean needs to sign electronically, click on yes or no, regardless, however they view the information, and then click submit again. Now, as far as communications, I'm going to have to shrink this back a little bit. Hope you can see. Is that okay, you guys, you think? Alexa, do you see that okay?
Sorry, yes, I can still see it okay.
All right, great. So the form has been approved when an incomplete request has been approved. A couple things we want to show you. So the heading, the subject line of the email will have the CRN, the course designator, so academic department designator, and the course number. So this is what the student is going to see. It's also what everybody who's touched the form is going to see. So Jean Main was a student, so she's getting her copy. Anita Sparrow was the dean, she's getting her copy. And Marisol Lopez Castro was the faculty member, so she's getting a copy. And then we go on, and you can see it talks to the student about it's important to work with your instructor to complete the requirements. It goes on to detail when the assignments are due no later than the 10th week of the next standard semester based on our academic calendar, which we have a live link to. And then, as you can see here, these were pulled directly from that requirements section for the faculty. So if I had misspelled things, if I had just kind of written out a list, paper due, comma, that, it's not going to mean much to the student. We really want to get some detail in there. So, and as I said, perhaps referencing the syllabus is a good idea, because that is a legal binding document for the student. And then it also shares with the student, if they do not complete the coursework by the specified time, or the instructor does not submit the grade, we know that doesn't happen with all of you, those are other people, the grade on your transcript will convert to a D. And again, that D is what the faculty reported in their requirements section. So please contact your faculty member or your instructor for information about your grade. And then it signs off. So in situations where there is a denial, when incomplete requests are denied, it goes to the student and the faculty member. Your request for an incomplete grade has been denied. Please see your instructor for details and discuss your options. And that's the basics of how the form is working. So if there are any questions, we are happy to take them. I'll answer questions more related to how the form works, and Anita and her team will be addressing information about the policy.
All righty. You did have a few questions that came in.
Great.
One of them was, this was in the very beginning, they asked, does the form pull up the student's legal name or preferred name?
The way the form is designed, it's designed to pull out whatever is in Banner. So if they've identified their preferred name in Banner, it will pull that.
Excellent. So when will this be a requirement? In other words, when will the old process no longer be accepted?
Anita?
I think we're going to have this available for this coming spring semester. So
semester.
As soon as we can take this webinar out and send communications to the students, and then we'll submit it also and submit it as an attachment to our end of term when we send out our communications for final grades. We'll also have the webinar attached to that. So it will be available as soon as we get the link up on the website.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. If we are not approving the incomplete, do we still have to list requirements? This person is thinking of the student who has not completed most of the work in the course.
That's a great question. No, I would just, because you're denying it, but I would write in there just, for recording purposes, however you would like to say, hasn't met the 61% mark or the majority of the course. work.
Yeah, we're hoping that the student would have at least had a conversation with the instructor prior to submitting the incomplete form. That's what we're encouraging.
Mhm.
The instructor having a conversation with the student.
Okay. So I'm keeping track. There's a few more
And
questions that are
actually,
coming in.
you know, I have another thought, you guys. It might be something that you may want to even preempt and, you know, speak to your classes about. I know you don't want to encourage, you know, the whole world, nor do we, to do incomplete forms. But perhaps if you were to say to your classes at this point, hey, let's wrap up all of our coursework. We want to get all of our stuff in before the end of the semester. However, if there is an emergency situation, you know, there is an incomplete form available, please talk to me before you submit that form.
All right. Someone asked if the document will be sent out, and if you give me a copy of it, I can post it on the CT State webinar page with a copy of the webinar.
Okay, yeah, I will give it to Alexa. It's going to be, I'm distributing, or I'm sorry, Anita is distributing it to deans. I think at some point little later today. And we're going to be sharing the student correspondence which is going out today. The email to students is going out today. And we'll put that all together in a packet for our deans, and they're meeting on the 30th. So it will be available by then.
Excellent. When the student selects the campus, will it trigger an error if the student enters a CRN that is offered by a different campus?
Outstanding question. Outstanding question. It will not. It will not. So if it's a student from Manchester, or a Manchester home campus student who's maybe taking a class at Tunxis, you want to go through, obviously the faculty member is the faculty member, but it should then go to the dean that has academic purview over that course. So even though it's a Manchester student's going to report their home campus is Manchester. It would go through the campus academic structure of who's offering the course.
Okay. As there are requirements, e.g. a percent of the coursework that needed to be completed for a student to be eligible. Oh, I think they're saying, are there requirements or a percentage of the coursework that needs to be completed before a student can apply for an I? Should this be part of the student's application? This would avoid students applying that are not eligible for an incomplete and reduce the number of denials.
The policy states that the student needs to have completed 61% of the coursework.
All right. And is there a deadline for students to submit an incomplete form for this semester?
We normally would like to have it before finals, but I know sometimes students don't get to you until finals. But if we can have it within like a week after finals so we can process it, because what happens is once we roll grades, we'd have to manually enter those in after the grades are rolled. But definitely before, if possible, before finals.
Okay. Is the last date of participation required if the default grade is an F, but not required for other grades? Does that make sense?
The requirement
do
is
that?
for all the grades. Every single grade, yeah. So
Okay.
whether it's an F or a D or a C or D, the last date of participation is required.
Okay, thank you. And the person responded to the question prior to this about the 61%. She says she knows about the 61%. She would like this to be part of the student form. So that's just a suggestion, I guess.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We can, I think most likely we will encourage, rather than stating the whole policy in that top part of the form, we're more likely to have a link to it and encourage students to talk to their faculty.
Okay. And then I've run out of questions in the chat. So if anyone has any other outstanding questions and wants to type them in, they can. But otherwise, thank you. And I think we'll give them one more minute and then I think we're all set. Is there anything else, Jean or Anita, you would like to add? No?
No, not at this time.
No, I guess the big thing is that if before you maybe deny a student, maybe a conversation might be helpful to have prior with the student if you're still in class, obviously. This way the student doesn't get, caught off guard. That's my suggestion.
And there was, let's see, so I did have a few more come in. One question was the 61% rule, is that firm?
That's part of the policy, so I believe so.
Yeah, okay. And then somebody also suggested adding a checkoff box that the student has read the policy. And
That's a good idea. Yeah.
so there's another one. And if a student asks where the form is available, how do we direct them?
To my CT State online student online forms
It's on the
guide.
Yeah, and so that was at the very, if you missed the very beginning of this presentation, how to get there is on the first page of the paperwork. And then let's see. So if the 61% is not reached, do we automatically deny them?
I don't know if I can go against the policy and say, it's up to you, but that's between you and the student, I believe. I can double check on it. I just know that the policy says that they need to complete 61%. But if someone wants to send me an email, I can get back to you on that.
Okay. Can we require work to be due before 10 weeks into the next semester?
Yes, after the student submits all their paperwork, it can be like a week later. You can even submit a grade change to have that process quicker, because the incompletes won't be rolled until after that 10th week into the next standard semester. So if the student gets an incomplete for this spring, but they finish in June, you can go ahead and submit a grade change form at that time. So you don't have to wait.
Let's see. Yeah, and then someone else just added that they think it should be denied per policy to be consistent with what's been communicated in the past. So, and I think we've gone through all of our questions. We had a few more come in, but we've answered all of those. Let's see. Oh, I think that the question is, can a mutually agreed upon deadline be set before 10 weeks into the next semester? So okay, I think what they're saying is, can you give the student a deadline of 10 weeks?
I'll have to look into that, because I think the policy says they have until the 10th week.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. It says the form is found in the student portal. Is the form also available for faculty and admin?
No, it's available. It's a student initiated form, so it's on the student's card.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can an incomplete be rolled earlier so it does not negatively impact their financial aid or standing?
I don't know what you mean by rolled. Maybe Anita?
Yeah. So we roll after the 10th week for the eyes to be changed to their default grade. If the student completed their grade, I recommend a grade change form so that can get processed quicker.
Let's see. I think, let's see. Okay. There's a few more. They just keep popping in slowly. Let's see. How does a documented disability, allow more consideration versus procrastination or laziness?
That's not for us to decide. I would say that is, I think, I would see the faculty member and the disabilities coordinator on the campus speaking with the academic dean, having a conversation around that before even starting the incomplete process. I think that needs to be established. And that would, I think, happen outside of the use of this form.
The policy hasn't changed, so it's still the same policy. So if the incomplete gets rolled at the 10th week, but the students still did not complete their work, there's still that option that a grade change can be processed. So, if they needed more time, but the incomplete was already rolled to, like, let's say a D, but the student's striving to submit some more paperwork for, a B or an A, There is they still can process a grade change for, they still can submit that. So, that's an option. Also, I just wanted to add that we didn't touch on, there are some special programs out there that will not allow for students to use the incomplete form. I believe it's the Second Chance Pell students that may not have access to this. We will accept the paper form for them. So any other population that will not have access, we can do that also.
Okay.
So everyone's aware.
So let's see, there's a question. Somebody just commented that when they log into CT State, they can see the form under the student online forms. We have, let's see, what if a student can't complete the form themselves because maybe they're hospitalized or something like that?
Yes, for extenuating
Obviously,
circumstances.
yes, and the form is, when we design forms and processes, we design them for the 95% or the 99, that type of idea. There's always going to be those who fall into the 5%. So absolutely, we will make some sort of adjustment for that person to do a paper form without question. It's just, but when you design for the majority.
Okay. Question, it should not impact financial aid if they've completed over 61% of the class, correct? So they're saying if they've completed 61% of the class, it shouldn't have an impact on financial aid?
Meaning, and I wouldn't have.
Okay. Someone else from the comments has said that is correct. So
I'm not,
we're not experts in that
financial
part.
aid here, so.
And then let's see, bottom line, faculty don't need to approve what the student sends, correct? If a student has been MIA without explanation, an instructor can just deny.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's see, we'll give it one more minute because everybody, actually, let me look through really quickly and make sure.
Make sure we hit them all.
Is that kind of, I get kind of squirrely looking in the comments.
And any questions, I'm willing to take emails, obviously. If you want to just email me any questions, that's fine.
And me too, if you have questions about the form or, a difficulty with the form, by all means, let me know.
Okay, excellent. And then somebody else just commented that they should deny based on the 61% policy. So I think we've wrapped up all our questions. This was exciting. This was more questions than I've had in a while. Kept me on my toes. So this presentation is recorded. We will put up the documentation also so that people can read through it and save a copy for their own records. And it'll be on ctstate.edu/webinars. And I'd like to thank both of you for that presentation and all those answers. All right. I hope everyone has a lovely day.
You do the same. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.